Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Tulio Jaudi's red-white human initiative deck. So this is quite different to the regular initiative decks. This recently won a challenge, and let's have a look at it. So we've got the things you'd expect. So we have Seasoned Dungeoneer and Caves of Chaos Venture with a bunch of fast mana, including City of Traitors and Ancient Tombs to power these out, and Cavern of Souls on human to make them uncounterable. So that's kind of where we're going. But other things along the way are pretty interesting. So we have Brutal Cathar as a piece of removal that's also a creature. We have Thalia, which can slow people down. I recently got very jammed up by this card when I was recording a league, so this is definitely a potent one. We have a Boromir. So whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So this is going to jam up quite a few decks as well. And then you can sacrifice it to give creatures you control indestructible until end of turn. So that's going to be useful again. And we have Anointed Peacekeeper, which is very much a known entity at this point. It's just a really good threat that can disrupt your opponent and is a great tempo swing of making the removal spells in their hand cost a bunch of mana. Should be noted that Thalia is not as good as something like an Archon of Emeria as a general rule, but it's a human, so that's kind of where we're going here. We also have Eowyn. This is a 4 mana 3/4 haste. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls with greater power. And then legendary creatures you control gain protection from each of that creature's colour until end of turn. So you can sometimes use this as a remove their guy, give all your creatures unblockability. So that's kind of an interesting one. And we have one other little spicy one here. Rick Steadfast Leader. So 4 mana 3/4 enters the battlefield. Choose 2 from First Strike, Vigilance and Lifelink. Humans get those abilities. If you get 4 or more humans, your humans get big. That's probably not going to be the most relevant. The making your humans big, but the other abilities will definitely be good. And then we have, to top off our curve, some Forth Eorlingas, which makes human knights. So these are going to get the bonuses from something like Rick. So that's kind of interesting. And, you know, it's just a great card. Goes very well under Chrome Mox. You know, the sort of thing you'd expect to see out of these decks. We have 4 swords to Plowshares. We're not trying to do anything cute with Chalice. We're just playing removal, playing threats. We're just going to be a tempo, stompy style deck. We have room for a couple of little fancy lands. We've got 1 Karakas and 1 Eiganjo. But that's about it. They are lands that tap for our colours, and you know we're a little bit susceptible to wasteland anyway, so we didn't really need to, you know, play around it by having more basics. We just got 1 of each to find off of the initiative, and then that'll just about do. Cyber-wise, we got some more humans for you. Magus of the Moon, that guy's a human. Zealous Conscript, that guy's a human, can steal some pretty exciting big things. Palace Jailer, get the Monarch, mash some stuff up, bit more removal, etc. Containment Priest for various combo decks and things like Natural Order, Green Sun Zenith. We've got Loran of the Third Path, blow up some of these artifact decks, along with some Meltdowns to help on that front as well. Bit of Graveyard Hate and Faerie Macabre. We have Mindbreak Trap against the decks that are trying to go off and kind of ignore the fact that we're doing aggro because they're just going to kill us on the first couple of turns of the game. And then we have this one, Soul Partition. 2 mana instant, exile target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. A spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast. So this is kind of like a weird taxing effect removal. I'm not convinced that this is a good card, but this deck won a challenge, so let's give it a whirl. And yeah, that's the deck list. It won a challenge. Let's see if we can rattle it through a league and do pretty well with it. We're going to be stomping some people pretty hard, hopefully. All right, remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And let's jam. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, our opening hand makes a turn 2 Caves of Chaos Adventure. That's probably acceptable. We do get to lead off on a basic as well, and if we find any fast mana we might be able to go a turn earlier. Savannah, that could still be a control deck with cat spells. Alright, we just get to go now. Okay, let's give this a whirl. So we don't have to play around days, but if they have a counter spell, then it will get us regardless here. Let's play the big boy. Big girl, big boy. Big girl, I think. Yes. Human Barbarian. Can't say I've particularly looked at the art on this one. Here we go. Smash our large barbarian. Alright, we're in. I think they could remove this with a Swords of Plowshares. That's kind of what they're holding up here. We already have our plane, so we can only get the mountain here. Yep, so there's the plow that we knew was coming. Let's get the mountain. We have the initiative though. So if our opponent doesn't play a creature this turn, that's going to be great for us. We can go down. Alright, so they might wasteland us here. Sphere of Resistance. Okay. That's a slightly annoying one. Let's go down the Lost Well, see what we find. Another ancient tomb. Sorry, not another ancient tomb, but an ancient tomb. I think we have a lot of land here, but being able to... We can play Anointed Peacekeeper right now, and then follow up with an ancient tomb to play something on the next turn. Is that where I want to be, though? We definitely don't want this plateau. I'm just thinking, if they just wasteland us, if they just snap this wasteland off, then we're in trouble. Now, we might be able to Peacekeeper the wasteland here. I think I'm going to... I think I'm going to leave this on top just to play around this wasteland slightly. Because I want to be able to cast a spell next turn, like this Source to Plowshares, to make sure that we can maintain the Monarch. Because eventually the Monarch will win the game. Oh wait, we can't actually play our guy, can we? Whoops. Yeah, I think we're just dead to this Sphere Resistance, actually. But we do get to cast the... Why was I playing... Okay, alright, brain. What was happening is my brain was playing around Trinister instead of Sphere Resistance. I think that's what I was doing right there. Stash, please. That's a weird one. Okay, a Lotus Petal. I don't think our opponent's going to make a creature, so I think we just play out our basic land, and we play out our Lotus Petal here. We have a treasure here. Because our opponent doesn't have a creature in play, I'm less worried about getting this creature down just yet, but maybe that's a mistake. Our opponent can't do that much of crop rotation because each crop rotation is going to cost them 2 mana here. We're going to see here. Okay, so they're going to crop rotation here. Going to get themselves a Dark Depths, perhaps. They are, sure. We have this covered already. And we can Anointed Peacekeeper and Source of Plowshares in the same turn cycle, which is pretty. Let's make a Spooky Skeleton. Forth Eorlingas, that's some ways of the Spooky Skeleton, but I think the plan here is Ancient Tomb. I'm just trying to work out if we're supposed to use our treasure to play our Anointed Peacekeeper. I think so. I'm just trying to think what they could have. If they had some random way of interfering with our treasure tokens, then we don't... Well, our Lotus Petal and treasure token, then we don't get to kill this in response. So I think this is the safer play. They'll probably just make their guy in response to this, because we can name Thespian Stage. And wow, we're just in here. What do I care about here? Not a big fan of Wasteland. But we can probably beat that. If we make Thespian Stage cost more... I think we just name Wasteland here. We have the Marriage covered already. We just want to be able to make sure it doesn't kill us, and then we get to keep bashing. And we're about to go into Throne of the Dead 3 anyway. Yeah, didn't play the second turn of this game very well. But I'm okay with how we are right now. Our opponent's hand is not particularly scary to me. Like Tabernacle, slightly annoying for the purposes of our Forth Eorlingas and stuff. Right, so they're just wastelanding here. Sure. Like, if they want to keep doing this, that's not going to be amazing for them. They might be playing the Tabernacle here, which is going to be an interesting one. Yep, so there's a Tabernacle. I think we're supposed to see what we're getting off the Undercity first, and then work out if we're paying for these creatures or not. Because the one that comes in off the Undercity won't have to pay because it's not in at the beginning of the upkeep. Let's have a look. I don't mind this Rick. Going above a certain life total is pretty handy. What is Boromir doing for us right now? Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. Indestructible can save all of our creatures, but I think the correct play here is to get Rick. I would like Vigilance and Lifelink, I think, here. The aim of the game is to... We will pay for this Peacekeeper. If we pay for the skeleton, I guess we're not dead to a single hit off Marriage. So we could pay for the skeleton this turn, but then they will just make this guy and attack us. So I think we have to let this go. Right, so we have another non-basic, that's fine. So if they want to make the Marriage, we can kill it. Like, it feels very telegraphed to them that we have this Source to Plowshares. So they're probably just going to keep trying to work around it using the Wasteland. Ghost Quarter is just a Wasteland at this moment in time. And I'm hoping they don't try and leverage that, because that's going to be slightly more awkward for us. But we do at least have the second land here. But if they Wasteland and Ghost Quarter us, then we're in trouble. Alright, so we're going to lose our Plateau here. We'll float to white. So we are making the same play we did last time, I think. But we only get to keep one of our creatures. So it's probably the Rick we keep because it's just bigger, isn't it? Means their wastelands are back on, but that's not the end of the world for us. Now, when we fetch no basic here, that does tell our opponent what we have, which is problematic. But we're not getting a Marit Lage this turn, so I think we pay for both right now. Okay, so I guess we go to tax here. I will play out this Cavern of Souls. We'll name human. This just gives them something else to wasteland, and it can add mana to pay for sphere resistance still. Because if they ghost quarter our planes, we don't have a white source, which is why we're sandbagging this plateau, because we're going to need this to get through this Dark Depths. But we can take a hit from Marit Lage, and if we connect once more, we can take 2 hits from Marit Lage, which is pretty big news. Swords to Plowshares on our large lad. Sure. We'll gain a boat. Alright. A boatload of life there. Alright, I think we're going to go down Forge here, because we're going to have to try and get our opponent dead soon. We'll pay using the Cavern, because this isn't really that important mana-wise. Alright, deck. What have you got for us? We'll go to tax. They have to go in on the Marit Lage token this turn. Otherwise, the trap will kill them if they don't take the initiative off us. Yep, here it comes. So they're going to lose a bunch of lands. They're going to make a 2020, and then we're going to kill it. And there's no way they can respond because of the sphere. So they're only getting 20 life. So that keeps them alive for a little bit longer. But they now need to rebuild their whole board from scratch, really. I'm going to play this on human. And they can't do like really good chains with, you know, a couple of crop rotations just to get them there. Because those crop rotations cost 2 mana right now. Alright, they're sacrificing lands to draw more cards. They're going to take 10 on the next turn. Alright, what is this? A crop rotation, okay. Maze of Ith, maybe? That helps for a little bit, but not forever. And we're going to become the Monarch, as well as the initiative being our thing too. Yep, so there's the maze, as expected. We're still going to push damage this turn. Let's trap them down. The initiative tends to be pretty hard for land style decks to deal with. Alright, I will cast this. Now yes, this isn't ideal when we're about to lose a bunch of creatures to the Tabernacle potentially, but this allows us to keep forcing damage through. And we don't really have anything else going on. But this means we force 4 damage through this turn instead of nothing. Next time we draw an extra card, the turn after we go back into the throne. Alright, what do we draw? Another land. That's fine. We can take 2 hits from a Marit Lage. I don't mind the position we're in there. They can ghost quarter away our lands, and it is just strip mine at this point. Despite the awkward start we got off to in this game, our inherent positive nature in this matchup is certainly helping us out. Alright, so we're going to put these on, and we're going to see what we get off the initiative first. This is going to get us a card, and then we can start paying for stuff. They have a Urza Saga, which is not nothing. Alright, so let's pay for these guys. Red, colourless, colourless. We can't make any tokens this turn, but we just keep making these. Like I said before, we're sandbagging the source that can cast our spells in case they ghost quarter our white sources. Now, even when they get their Urza Saga, they're not going to be very big. And they're going to have to pay if they want to keep them around, but they can obviously just throw one out for blocks, and it can trade with a Horsey. A Lotus Petal, not amazing under the sphere, but they can make a construct, they can ghost quarter us, and they can Maze of Ith our guy. We'll only force 2 damage through this turn, but we're about to go into Throne of the Dead 3, so we might find something that can help us out in the spot a little bit more. Right, just paying for a Mox Diamond. They're discarding this Ghost Quarter that's been sat there. No. There's the Ghost Quarter finally. So we're going to see what we get off the initiative in case it changes what we want to do here. Throne of the Dead 3 for the second time. Do we just want a Caves of Chaos Adventurer? Because it has Trample, so it's going to be good at getting through stuff. Do you want a Seasoned Dungeoneer? Brutal Cathar's not going to do very much. I think I like Caves of Chaos Adventurer here. You go back into the initiative. We get no basic lands because you have both of our lands. 1, 2, 3. Let's pay for these. I'll play this. Play one of these. Keep one sandbagged at all times, of course. And send him with the clowns. This is a lethal attack, but our opponent can kill one of our knights and Maze of Ith our Anointed Peacekeeper. Oh, wait, they have another artifact now, don't they? Yes, they can eat one of these but still take 2. But they can't really attack into us. I guess these could be 5/5s, but we have an 8/6. I guess they could go and get a Shadow Spear. and stick it on the guy. So I can make a token, get Shadow Spear, stick it on their guy. And that would trade with the Caves of Chaos Adventurer then if I can do maths. Although they have to pay for their construct actually, so they're still fine if they have a land drop. But we can also Forth Eorlingas on our next turn for a bunch. And just put more threats in play. City of Traitors will certainly help that. I think we make 4 2/2s next turn. Which should be enough here. Just an expedition map. I'm curious what they're going to get off of this. We may never find out. Shadow Spear. Okay, that's not going to be good enough here. We should get them for lethal here. Unless I've made some sort of horrible miscalculation. Right, so we're going to forge and put it on the creature with trample. I guess we have 2 creature trample. We'll put it the one that will definitely go over the top of something. I guess they can Maze of Ith that one actually. So, oh no, the Maze of Ith is tapped this turn, so yeah. Alright. We're not worried about future turns because we're going to win the game this turn. We used a surprising amount of our clock this game. I guess we've had a lot of triggers that we're having to click through. Smash this one down. Go attacks. All the guys. Alright. Lands, you say? What is good against lands? Magus of the Moon looks pretty reasonable to me. Meltdown is also quite tasty here. Zealous Conscripts is a weird one. It's unlikely to get much use. Faerie Macabre can get rid of Life from the Loam if that's what this game becomes about. I'm not convinced it is. Quite like Loran, just for similar reasons to these. Palace Jailer, again, they struggle to take the initiative. They either kill you with a 2020 or they're in as a Saga Town. I think Palace Jailer is kind of okay for these situations. Thalia is good. Eowyn does not look great here, so that's one easy cut. Boromir, they're not really destroying our stuff, so they can get out of here. So that's these 4. No, that's only 3 of them, so we need to find another one. Brutal Cathar, again, they're not going to be playing that many creatures. I think maybe Brutal Cathar's just come out altogether and allow us to play these, which do similar things, but also Palace Jailer without a creature to kill is still good. I like having the instant speed answer in Source to Plowshares. So I think this looks fine. Do you want anything else? I want Overboard. Meltdown and our own Chrome Moxes is not great. But if that's our answer to killing like all of their stuff, then so be it. What does our hand do? Not a great deal. It's very slow. I think we can mulligan this. What is this? A turn 1, nothing. And turn 2, maybe do something. I think we have to mulligan again. Okay. This can be a turn 1 Anointed Peacekeeper, if we think that's good. Doesn't feel great, though. So what do we want here? We're keeping our Ancient Tomb, because that's basically 2 lands. We don't need this mountain. We don't have any red spells, so that can go. We probably have to keep our second land. Probably have to keep the Chrome Mox if we keep in this hand. Which means we're probably throwing away the Plow. And hopefully drawing another card so we don't have to give up this Palace Jailer. Because playing Anointed Peacekeeper into Palace Jailer kind of undoes our mulligan a bit. Because we can tax one of their cards. And then we can start drawing a bunch with our own Jailer. Exploration. That's a pretty good start from our opponent. Some might say the best. Oh, and a Mox Diamond. Sure. Are we going to see a Life from the Loam this turn as well? Right. I think our opponent is quite heavily favoured right now. For me, a Loam. A Sphere of Resistance. Yuck. Alright. I'm not sure we beat this. If we play Cavern on Human. That saves us 2 life off the Ancient Tomb. If that's going to be relevant later on. I'm just trying to work out what we play our Chrome Mox with mana-wise. I guess we can play the Ancient Tomb and just tap for green using Yavimaya. That doesn't expose our coloured source that way. Not a big fan of this play, but it's the one we have. If we imprint the Anointed Peacekeeper, we do get to make the Palace Jailer next turn. But being the Monarch's seen as bad when they're going to have these tokens in our grills. So I guess we imprint the Palace Jailer, and then we probably lose the game in about 3 or 4 turns. I'll probably just take one more draw and then save time and go to the last match. Because we did use half of our clock on the first round, on the first match. So I'd rather have more ability to sculpt things around. Okay. Do I want... I think I still want the Anointed Peacekeeper here, though. I want to name as a Saga. We can tap for this to save ourselves. Oh no, we have to tap this for... They have the sphere, so we don't get to choose what we're doing here. We just don't have the Caves of Chaos Adventure this turn, even if we wanted to play it because of the sphere. Yep, so they're going to make a token response because we can name Urza Saga here, but we're still probably naming Urza Saga anyway. This stops our opponent from getting another token out of this, so they only have the one. And then maybe, just maybe, we can do something, because they're kind of all in on this, but they can just go get an expedition map and get something else here. Oh, they've gone for the Shadow Spear. Right, so they're just all in on the this line, aren't they? Interesting. We do get to play a spell next turn, because we have +2 mana in our hand. But this construct token is a bit of a beefy boy. Meltdown is a spell we can't cast right now, but I guess we can 2-stage it by getting the white source with our Caves of Chaos Adventure. Sorry, the red source. Oh, okay. That is an incredible draw. 1, 2, white, white, and then 2 more. Goodbye, enemy construct. All right. This is pretty big news for us, to be honest. We are now in a commanding position. Our opponent is hellbent. They're just drawing off the top. And we've got 5 power in play, as well as more on the way. So I think we are... If we play this land out, it kind of messes some of the other stuff up. So I think we are jamming this. 1, 3... This is red. This is 2. Let's introduce the initiative into the game, please. I think because we have the Plateau now, we're probably going to get the basic plains. That makes the moon better as well. Good attacks. All right, our opponent's had enough. So the Palace Journeys we boarded in did help us. And they helped us in exactly the way that I intended them to, of removing constructs and also giving us value. So pretty happy with how that game turned out in the end, even though the beginning of the first game was a little bit shaky. All right. A good example of why initiative is pretty good against lands decks, because they have very few options to pressure you. It's just the saga. So if you can deal with that, then you're ticking up things of like Monarch and initiative will just win the day. All right, let's go to round 2. All right, so we're into round 2. What does our opening hand do? Nothing. Let's mulligan. What does this opening hand do? Also nothing. It's very slow. We're going to go for something a bit more punchy here. What does this hand do? This makes a turn 2 Seasoned Dungeoneer. I think that is keepable. 2 cards have got to go. So we're keeping our Ancient Tomb. We're keeping our Seasoned Dungeoneer. Keeping our Chrome Mox. We're keeping a card for Chrome Mox. We'd probably keep the Cavern of Souls, which means it's the Mountain and Source to Plowshares that goes. This is kind of the sketchy turn, because they can hit our thing. I think we do play out the Cavern first. I don't want to play out the Chrome Mox into Prismatic Endings, but again, we could get a little bit annoyed by something like a Sphere, but I think Prismatic Ending is a lot more common. But the plan is we put the Forth Eorlingas under the Chrome Mox. That unlocks both our colours. That's why we don't mind this one being hung out there. So no wasteland on turn 1 is pretty good. If our Chrome Mox resolves... Alright, we're going to get Thoughtseized here. Alright, this is pretty bad. They have some interesting options here. Like, you can take the Chrome Mox, or you can just take the Seasoned Dungeoneer. Which is probably what they go for, just take the most powerful card in our hand. Forth Eorlingas is uncastable. So, yeah. Alright. What are we looking for now? I don't think that's the one, is it? I think we just play out this Ancient Tomb and pass, I guess. Snow-covered swamp. Interesting. Pretty Delta and nothing else. Over to us. A Lotus Petal, you say. Alright, our Chrome Mox is going to imprint a Simian Spirit Guide. Question is, how big is our Forth Eorlingas going to be? Do we play around days here? I think we probably have to, right? So red, white, make 2 guys. Play around days. Alright, we're just in. Plays around days or 1 removal spell. Alright, we're just in with the Monarch. That's exciting. Lotus Petal is less exciting, but I got the impression our opponent might be on the combo side of things, judging by what they've done with their turns. Hand Disruption into nothing usually means we're probably going to get like Doomsday or something. Chrome Mox. Alright, might be more like Ad Nauseam Tendrils. Empty the Warrens. Okay. My perception here is that we're going to get Beseech the Mirrored. Yep, so they've got the artifact there for it. Okay, we'll just F6 this turn because I think our opponent should have us. So they're going to Beseech the Mirror, sacrificing this Chrome Mox. You've got the Gaia's Will here. They can crack their Lion's Eye Diamond in response to this. They've got Tendrils of Agony in the graveyard. So they can play Chrome Mox, Lion's Eye Diamond, and then the Tendrils. Is that lethal? Mox, Mox, Beseech, Gaia's Will, LED, Mox, Tendrils. Oh, they could just do another Beseech as well. Yeah, that makes sense. So they can Beseech into a Ritual and then cast this Tendrils of Agony. And the Chrome Mox. Yep, so they've gone for LED, which is basically a Ritual. There's a Chrome Mox. And then they point the Tendrils at our face and we die. Alright, that was pretty good against us there. We have this Mindbreak Trap. We have this Faerie Macabre, which is good against the Gaia's Will lines. I'm not convinced Magus to the Moon is where I want to be here, but Meltdown is if they're playing stuff out over the course of multiple turns. Loran in the third path has kind of similar text. I don't think we want these plows. Where does this leave us? 2 cards over. We don't need Eowyn here. I don't mind Rick as a way of speeding up the clock. Brutal Cathar not looking great here. Maybe Eowyn is better than Brutal Cathar. It pitches better to Chrome Mox. Meltdown can obviously hit our own Chrome Moxes, but once we get a guy in play, we don't care. How useful can Magus of the Moon be? Better than Brutal Cathar, and there's 2 Brutal Cathars to cut from our deck, which kind of gives me the impression that that's maybe how this is supposed to be, and the reason why the numbers are the way they are. Alright, I'm down with this. A turn 2 Boromir is very good against our opponent's deck, but a Thoughtseize will ruin our day. I don't think we get much things better than Boromir, so I think we do keep this. Hopefully they duress us rather than Thoughtseize us. That would be the dream. They didn't get to see a large amount of our decks. They might not know we're on Boromir's. Our opponent's mulligan to 5, so 4. So they might have Echo and Lion's Eye Diamond in their deck, which means they can mulligan really low and still be able to play a proper game. They won't just get mulligan to oblivion. Alright, deck. I think we lead out with Cavern of Souls on Human and pass a turn. So some sort of sculpting turn would be better for us, like a ponder, or just alternatively nothing is also fine. Alright, let's go for the big boy here. If they're playing the build, there is a build of Storm that plays Force of Will at the moment, so this does get around that. So this will jam up Beseech the Mirror pretty handily, because the thing they chew off, they won't be able to counter. They won't be able to cast, sorry. And, well, they will, but it will get countered. And then also we get to beat down, and it stops all their 0-drop mana, like LED, and Lotus Petal, and Chrome Mox. So, not a bad spot to be in here. Alright, I'll play this out. And we'll jam this, because it's the quickest way to end the game. We already have a white source now, so we're going to get another red source, I think, here. Oh, we do have white for this, but we can get that later. Actually, no, we want to get the white source, because if we do find a Magus of the Moon that we want to play, we don't lose our colours for doing that. Right, so we bash for 3 this turn. Next turn we bash for 10. The turn after they die. So they haven't got long to find their way out of this. Fatal Push is something they can have that can kill the Boromir. They might have bounce spells as well. Thoughtseize. Sure, you can take our Forth Eorlingas or our Meltdown. They probably take the Forth Eorlingas because that could represent more damage for next turn. They might also just be doing that to get more information and think they're already dead. This is a Forge matchup. We want the game to be over. We're going to put it on the Caves of Chaos Adventure because we don't want to... If they can't deal with that Boromir, they probably lose. So we want to make sure that they can't... Alright, we'll play this Karakas out so we can bounce our Boromir if we have to. Yeah, so like I was saying, if they deal with the Boromir, we still have a clock so we can race them a bit. Let's see what we find off the top. A Lotus Petal, sure. I'll cast that. And then we'll just hold up this Faerie Macabre. Dress down, you say? Yep, nothing going to do about that. But maybe this Faerie Macabre will mess them up if they go for a Gaia's Will line, which, on the resources they're on, that seems certainly a possibility. Okay, stuff like Dress Down is so good against like all these sorts of hate bear things. Alright, we're pondering, and we're cracking the AD in response. So they have a chance of hitting Beseech the Mirror here. Which wouldn't work anyway because of our Faerie Macabre, but our opponent didn't get to see our Macabre, which is good news. I don't think we changed anything for the last game. Let's just go straight back in. Now they've seen the Meltdown, they might be a lot more reluctant about playing their artifact mana out. Which is fair enough. This is one of the matchups where having someone like Archon of Emeria in is a lot better than having Thalia. But by playing into the human synergies, there are obviously going to be trade-offs, but there'll also be more advantages by the fact that our caverns are just a really good rainbow land all round instead of only casting some of our things. What does our hand do? It beats a turn 1 Gaia's Will hand and then plays a turn 1 Boromir. Yeah, this hand looks great. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 cards. That serves us quite well. It means they're unlikely to have hand disruption and the ability to combo off super early. I believe there is a version of this card that has been printed with a different name, so it's not Walking Dead related. But I can't tell you what that card is called, I'm afraid, because I don't remember. I'm pretty sure that exists. Alright, so we're going to see here a Thoughtseize. So they've got some options here. They could take the Boromir or the Faerie Macabre. But our hand is pretty solid. The Lotus Petal allows us to cast a turn 2 Caves of Chaos Adventurer, which is not a bad place to be. They might force us into playing the Karakas turn 1, which isn't bad. It means our City of Traitors gets to live because we don't need to rush down a Boromir. But we'll see what our opponent plays. To be fair, a lot of this decision is going to be them reading the essay that is this card. 3 lines of text, or 3 separate paragraphs of text, I should say. It's not actually that complicated. Alright, they've taken our Lotus Petal. That's interesting. I'll play this Karakas. They don't know what we drew. And then we have this Faerie Macabre for this turn. But them knowing about the Faerie Macabre means they know they just don't go through their graveyard with the Gaia's Will line. So that information is pretty important. Alright, lines like diamonds. They might just be playing this out ahead of Boromir. There's a Chrome Mox. 1 card in hand. Yep, so just playing this out ahead of the Boromir they know is coming. Here comes our friend. That's over to our opponent. Imagine our opponent's probably going to take a few draw steps before they do anything else this game. Let's bash away with our little friend. Flow some mana from this. Play this. Jam down our Caves of Chaos Adventurer. I guess we'll get this Plains for the same reason as the last game in terms of like Megs of the Moon and stuff being a potential thorn in our side if we don't have the basic to play around it. So now they have dress down mana, so they have dress down mana plus additional mana. But I don't think that gets them anywhere. I think they're going to need more resources, but they might not have a lot of time for those resources. This is definitely a Forge matchup. We want to be bashing hard here. Loran on the third path is very good here. I was going to think about something else, but this is just too good. Let's just take out this lines like diamond. Yeah, our opponent's off it there. So we could have attacked first, see what we get off the Caves of Chaos Adventurer, but I don't know what we're going to find. I guess we could find Meltdown. That's the only thing that would be better, I think, in this situation than the Loran on the third path, really. Because being able to take these out is just good. So we're 2-0, stomping away. Let's go to round 3. Right. We are now into round 3. This hand gives us a turn 2 Caves of Chaos Adventurer. That's acceptable. We can also play a Plow on our first turn. And if our Caves of Chaos Adventurer gets like Thoughtseize or something, we might be able to Forth Eorlingas as well, so we have options. But generally, smashing down your big scary guy is the option I would like to take. We do need to make a decision about what land we play though. Because if we want to hold up Swords of Plowshares, we have to play the Plateau. But that means our Caves of Chaos Adventurer won't be counterable. So I think the correct play is to play this out on human, to play around counter spells. Also, it means we can't get wastelanded off of Swords of Plowshares easily. If for some reason our Chrome Mox won't resolve or whatever. Bayou. Alright. Yep, so the other way would have been better for us. Understood. Play this one out. I think this is going to be a matchup where we're going to want to have access to our Swords to Plowshares. So we're going to put this Forth Eorlingas underneath it. And if I can do simple maths, we should be able to play our big scary barbarian lady. Kapow. So I think we get the plains here. We have white spells, and also we have a Swords to Plowshares are probably in the market for casting soon. I think we're probably going to the Lost Well here. We'll see what our opponent does. They could have a removal spell, kill our barbarian, and then attack him. Alright. Quirion Ranger. Ranger danger indeed. Yep, so they're untapping their Hierarch, so now they get to play a 2-drop as well. Sorry, a 3-drop even. Grist the Hunger Tide. That's a very strong one. Is that going to kill our friend? It is going to kill our friend. Sorry, barbarian lady. Into the bin with you. They don't get to steal the initiative this turn, though. So, Lost Well. And we can stop them from getting it for another turn by killing their Quirion Ranger. That's Lost Well. Brutal Cathar is pretty good. So put this on the bottom and this on the top. We'll draw our friend here. Get rid of their creature. We're still holding up Swords to Plowshares. And we're going to go into stash. If we find a Forth Eorlingas, we're going to have a very big turn of many lads. Right, they're going to make themselves a little insect. This can be a problem for us in future turns. A Green Sun Zenith where X equals 1. What is that going to be? Some sort of mana dork. Or an Elvish Reclaimer. Yep, a mana dork, sure. I think we are supposed to be mana efficient here and just get rid of this dork. Can we find something good here? We're in stash mode here. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Boy, is that a nice description of good. Right, let's go to attacks first. Not let them know that we got a Seasoned Dungeoneer coming. Let's attack Grist. We're about to get Spooky Skeleton as well. So they'll have to play a guy out. They're not going to be able to take the initiative off us. Let's play a big strong lady. Let's play out this Cavern on human first. White. We're saving some life points here. We don't have anything to use the rest of our mana on, so we may as well just save it. It does show our opponent, well, not necessarily, like they might think we have a plow still because we have a treasure. But yes, we have some junk in our trunk right now. They can play a creature and minus the grist, so they'll trade their grist and whatever creature they play to kill our Seasoned Dungeoneer or our Brutal Cathar. But we're going to go into the Throne of the Dead 3 next turn, which I think is going to be good. Often is. Alright, Verdant Catacombs. Right, let's venture into the Undercity once more. They might just be trying to see the top cards of our library and stuff. Boromir, Caves of Chaos Adventurer, Seasoned Dungeoneer. Interesting. I think the Trample one is better here. Alright, our opponents had enough. I think they just wanted to see the top 10 cards of our library to get more of a feel about what's in our deck. Okay, so this is the matchup where creature removal was good. We already have a bunch of that though. This is a matchup where something like a Containment Priest can do a pretty tasty amount of work. Soul Partition. I'm not convinced we want this when our opponent's got loads of extra mana and mana dorks and stuff. Palace Jail is an interesting one because our opponent has lots of creatures, so they can get the Monarch. But this removes one of their creatures, which is kind of a place where we're wanting to be. How convinced am I by Eowyn, Fearless Knight? I don't think they're going to have many creatures with greater power unless they have their really big creature. But that's kind of what our other removal spells are for. So I think I'd rather just have the Jailer than this. Peacekeeper is fine, but I'm not in love with it. So I think I'd rather have the Containment Priest instead of that. Forth Eorlingas is interesting because it's kind of part of our engine in terms of the providing mana and Chrome Mox. I guess Eowyn is similar, but Forth Eorlingas is just a much better card. First Strike, pretty good in creature matchups. It's going to mess with our opponent's mana. That seems fine to me. Maybe we're just trimming one piece, another Peacekeeper. Leaning more into our bigger threats, I think. Peacekeeper's pretty good body, though. I know, maybe I've boarded wrong. Maybe it's supposed to be the Boromir. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be the Boromir, right? I think Boromir is worse than those. What does our hand do? What does our hand do? It makes a turn to Thalia, and then doesn't really go anywhere after that. Any fast mana, though. And this hand can be supercharged to a turn 2 Dungeoneer. I think we keep... I may regret this, but we already didn't board in the Boromir, so that's a mistake. Board out the Boromir. Right, Cavern of Souls. We'll play this on human. And we'll pass. I guess we have made it so that we can't draw... If we'd have played out our Plateau, we could have at least drawn the Ancient Tomb and then use that and the Simian Spirit Guide to do a little Forth Eorlingas. Collect Roof. Okay, that doesn't really do anything against what our hand is operating with. Would I rather have this Anointed Peacekeeper or just slam this Thalia right now? Thalia seems pretty good. Or we can wait a turn and play Dungeon. I think we're just going to get our first striker out. In the land of the 2 power creatures, the first striker is king. Or queen in this case. Big strong queen lady. Let's go. So that should jam up their basic their lands unless they have basics. But their land is pretty invested in like all these dual lands and cradles and stuff. Alright, they just have a snuff out straight up. Okay. So Anointed Peacekeeper would have played around that. But we're playing Anointed Peacekeeper next turn, which is Vigilance, so it's going to be pretty good by attacking and blocking in the same turn cycle. And then we can go into Dungeoneer. Grist. That's a pretty good one. However, Anointed Peacekeeper. Why did I not board out Boromir? You can tell I don't play this deck very much. Or this style of deck anyway. Alright, there's an insect token. Ah, there's this card that I don't like. White, white, and human mana. Let's see what the hand is, but I'm pretty much just naming Grist here. Ugh. 1, 2, 3. So if they find a land, they can do the thing. I don't think we beat that though. I think we just still name Grist. Yeah, I think our opponent wins this one. If they find a land, they get to natural order. If they don't find a land, they can natural order in 2 turns. Because they can almost certainly once upon a time for 1. And I don't think... Well, like, we do have removal. But if they go and get something like a Traxxer, that's going to give them a load of card advantage as well. Here's the once upon a time. An Ignoble Hierarch. Right, that's the mana for next turn. So... Containment Priest, please. Yep, this is a 3-power guy now because of the Hierarch. I think our Peacekeeper is worth way more than this Collector Roof. So by casting out the spell, they didn't get to activate Grist this turn. How are we going to beat this? That is certainly a question. I don't think a Forth Eorlingas is going to do it here. Are we just going to try and race what our opponent's doing? Is that a viable strategy? It's the one we have, so... Maybe we can deal 4 damage here, and then next turn we can deal more damage. Because this will get the trigger from the Seasoned Dungeoneer. I'm not really in a situation where I get to do the maths right now. Let's go to their face, because they might have an Traxxer in play next turn. Okay, it didn't get bigger. So they go to 11. So next turn we can bash for 5 here. Possibly 6. Which isn't good enough. So we're going to need a little bit of help. Because we can't bash into an Traxxer because of the lifelink. I don't think they can create hoof us out here though. So they do have to get the Traxxer. And we could find something like a Brutal Cathar and just take their guy out and then we're away. Yep, so this is going to be a natural order here. Goodbye. Dryad Arbor or Insect Token? Probably Insect Token. I don't think... Oh, there's a Dryad Arbor. Interesting. Is Create Hoof enough here? I guess it is. Our opponent's done the maths. That's their job to do. So this is 9, 14, 20, and we can block 7. So we are still alive, if you call that living. So if we block this and this, if we double block here, we take 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we live on 1 life, and we get to keep a creature. Well, not necessarily, because they're going to Grist minus. Alright, I think we are dead here. But if the Collector Roof dies, we get mana back off our Petal. So we can do 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can deal 8 damage with a Forth Eorlingas, which is certainly not lethal. I believe our opponent will minus the Grist to kill our Seasoned Dungeoneer. If they don't, then we can win this game, I think. So we can get 8 damage off of this, and then 3 off of this. Our opponent's played pretty well so far. I haven't noticed anything I thought was weird or bad. Yeah, so they're doing the correct line here. So they probably lose their insect token, kill our Dungeoneer. Yeah. Okay. How do we wriggle out this one? If we can kill this, that's a start. You're a little bit late there. Alright. So if we play this, we play this, we play this. So white, red, and then play some more. This gives us 3 tokens. So we can kill Grist, get the initiative, and chump block. We have 1 more, we have 2 chump blockers. That seems fine. So this attacks Grist. This attacks them. And we introduce the Monarch into the game, and we also get the initiative up and rolling for us. What are you going to find? Is this a Forge situation or a Lost Well situation? Having a big Trampler is not the worst. Our hand is fine for what it is. What does Forge do? It gives us a bigger guy on Crackback. I think it's Lost Well. We can find any removal creatures. Bottom of library, bottom of library. Glad we got rid of those cards. Alright, Kara's home broken Forth Eorlingas card. A Lotus Petal. Now our opponent's deck contains Orcish Bowmasters, so that can just kill us. Alright, that did just kill us. Don't want to do anything differently here. Yes, we do. These Boromirs are rubbish, and I should have boarded them out before. Let's have these 2 Anointed Peacekeepers in. I kind of want this 3rd Anointed Peacekeeper now. I'm not really sure what's it's better than. It's probably better than a Thalia. Well, Thalia on the play is pretty gross. Maybe we don't need... I know, Vigilance in creature matchups and Lifelink is so clutch. Maybe we board out a Lotus Petal to keep our Thalia in. Or is it a Chrome Mox? No, it's a Chrome Mox rather than Lotus Petal, I think. If they're going to be like prioritising getting some collectors and stuff down. I'm sure people who are good with this deck will tell you how wrong that is. We have a removal spell, and then we have 2 more removal spells. But I don't think this does enough. Unless just removing 3 of our opponent's things is good enough to win the game, which I'm not convinced it is. Let's just have a really broken turn 1 like our deck is supposed to. I like this one, actually. The question is, what are we saying no to here? Forth Eorlingas is kind of a thing for later. Sure, I'm going to put that away for now. Right, I will lead out with this Plateau so we can plow a creature. And then we can start doing Containment Priest things. What have you got for us, opponent? Oh, Hierarch, sure. I will just kill this on the spot. We have more removal where that came from. Plays Karakas. And pass the turn. We're going to Containment Priest, possibly in response to a Green Sun or a Fetch Land. Right, neither of... Well, no Fetch Land. What about Green Sun? A Collector Roof, sure. Are we supposed to sandbag this Containment Priest? Or just jam it into play now and start beating our opponent down? I think we need to be the aggro here. Be the aggro you want to see in the world, I guess. Chrome Mox, you are no good. Human. Just keep their stuff out of play. Because they need resources to do things. Splash for 2. Start the aggro train rolling. We can cast any of the spells in our deck on our next turn. So hopefully we find a good one. Dryad Arbor has entered the exile zone. They did not understand how Containment Priest worked there, I think. Right, Brutal Cathar, that'll be certainly useful later on. They can't play Endurance because this doesn't tap for mana, so we just get to bash for a bunch. We will play our land out because it helps us play things like bigger Forth Eorlingas down the line. There's no point sandbagging the lands here. Unless we're against like a wasteland heavy strategy and we want to keep a coloured mana like we did in the previous round. Alright. 5 damage coming in on our next turn. We've got a removal spell in hand. Now they can play an Endurance, which is kind of awkward for us. If we attack into this Endurance, it's going to be bad for us. I think we have to pass. We can double spell on our turn if they ever do play a creature, and then flip this back if we want to try and get the next flip, because they got Endurance here, or they could have had a Bowmasters as well. That does stuff too. A Thought Seize. What are they going to take here? They're probably going to take the Brutal Cathar because it's the better card. I think we let them make a bad decision. I'd rather take the Containment Priest unless they have a removal spell, then I guess. But the Brutal Cathar in general is just going to be a better card for us. So I think giving them a chance to mess up and take the wrong one here is not bad. They took the Brutal Cathar like I thought they might. They cannot play an Endurance now. Right, let's play out another creature. Let's go to attacks. This could be a Bowmaster, but they can only kill one of our Containment Priests. And they didn't play a Bowmaster end of turn last turn, so... Now we're going to play this, see their hand, and see if we want to flip our guy back or not. I'm going to leave up the Karakas. Could be good against things like an Atraxa that finds its way into play. Natural Order, Undermountain Adventurer. Okay, we'll name your good card. And I will play this out to flip our guy back, I think. This means that if they do play a creature that we care about, we can just cast no spells and then this will gobble up. Because this can, every time it flips, it also takes a creature away, which is pretty gross. Alright, so they have a Grist. That's pretty good. That's going to turn on their Cradle. We do know their hand, though. And I don't know how this is going to save them from what's in play right now. Because there's a lot of stuff. We turn all our guys sideways. They have a bad time. Alright, that's the match. We're 3-0. Let's keep it rolling on to round 4. Alright, we're into round 4. Our opening hand makes a turn 2 Thalia into turn 3 Caves of Chaos Adventure. Alternatively, turn 2 Boromir into turn 3 Caves of Chaos Adventure. I will keep. Our opponent is a fan of the channel. Alright, a tropical island. I think we will still play this out. We've got caverns to spare. Thalia is pretty reasonable against these decks. If it's, well, I say these decks, we don't really know what our opponent's playing. I'm assuming some sort of Delver variant, just because that's the most common place to see tropical islands, but it could be all sorts of different things. Could be a deck that's only splashing for the blue, so it's more into like green-black colours or whatever. Could be like Doomsday, could be a Storm deck. Dark Ritual. Alright, if we get another turn, I'd like to cast Boromir. There is a Chrome Mox. This feels like Storm. Yep, so they're going to be making a whole bunch of stuff. Alright, so this is the Beseech the Mirror line. Storm count is 5. They go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this gets Guy's Will and it's deterministic. Once they show me the Guy's Will, I will concede. Alright, so Meltdown, we said was pretty reasonable. The Magus is playable. The Fairies and the Mindbreak Trap are kind of where I would be. Loran is nice too. And we're boarding out removal spells, if I recall correctly. 8 removal spells go. We have this stuff. That seems fine to me. Alright, so we're on the play. Our hand makes a turn 2 Boromir with our Faerie Macabre. I think that's probably as good as we get here. Faerie Macabre stops at turn 1 a lot of the time. And Boromir is just great against their deck. So we need to dodge a little bit of discard perhaps for a turn. And then we're up and running. Am I supposed to play this Plateau out? Or am I supposed to play this Ancient Tomb? What difference does it make? Uncertain. I'll just play out the Tomb. I think you could ponder about that, what you're supposed to be playing there for ages, but I don't necessarily think it's going to give you a great answer. Forth Eorlingas is pretty good here. They'll probably take the Boromir, which means they know they don't have to go through the graveyard, or they shouldn't go through the graveyard now. Let's have a big scary creature. We did not find a big scary creature. Alright, let's go to Ape Spirit Beatdown. We're going to keep this in hand so our opponent doesn't know what we have. A little bit more mystery. Let's play it out when the time comes, because it might change what our opponent thinks our clock could be like. So what they can do is they can just get something else off of Beseech the Mirror. So like the Song of Creation is what they've been playing at the moment. So it comes into play whenever you cast a spell, you get to draw 2 cards, but you have to discard your card at end of turn. And if you just got a couple of zeros in hand, you can just pretty much go off from there. There is a Dark Ritual. Are we dead? Lion's Eye Diamond. Lion's Eye Diamond again. Infernal Tutor. This looks like a Peer into the Abyss line, which should be lethal. There's a very minor chance that it won't be. Oh, it's just an Ad Nauseam line. Okay, that's better for us. Let's see what they're revealing here. Okay, Infernal Tutor. Lotus Petal. So they got the mana, and they've got a tutor here. They don't need the Abrupt Decay. They got some more mana. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. Yeah, that's lethal. Easy. Yeah, our opponent smashed us pretty hard there. A turn 1 and a turn 2. Alright, we're going to the final round to see if we can get the 4-1. The Trophy Dream has died, unfortunately. Alright, the opening hand for the final round does not really go anywhere, so we're going to mulligan this one for something a bit more powerful. Turn 1 Boromir is not powerful. Like, it can be, it could win us a game, but I don't think we can keep a hand based on that. We could have done turn 1 Forth Eorlingas, but turn 1 Anointed Peacekeeper is a little bit more keepable to me. Yeah, not really liking this one. So I guess we chuck back a couple of Peacekeepers. And then, yeah, our hand's pretty bad here. Alright, Bauble. What flavour of Bauble are we? Are we looking at Delver, or are we looking at, like, 8-cast Patchwork Stompy style decks? The way they're using this Bauble makes me think they're more on the Delver style. I'm working out what land to play out and stuff here. Yeah, I think we're going to get pretty smashed up this game. Right, there is a Plateau. There's a Chrome Mox. I'm thinking about it. Like, our hand doesn't really go anywhere, so we kind of need to cheese them with this Anointed Peacekeeper. As sad as that is. White, white. Feels like a very good day's target for our opponent. They should be cracking their fetch regardless, right? Because we could name their Polluted Delta and just shut them off with mana, which is kind of the way that I was hoping to cheese. What do we have here? A whole bunch of annoying stuff. Unholy Heat doesn't kill it yet. Seal of Removal can bounce it. Requires more stuff. I guess we name Seal of Removal here. The hand's pretty stacked though. I don't fancy our chances here. We do have an answer for the Murktide at least. But Minsk and Boo, that's going to be a real problem for us. Like, that's one of the things we could have named, but then the Seal of Removal just gets rid of our guy and then we're nowhere. But they have to pay 2 mana additional for the Seal of Removal and 2 mana to pop it. So that's quite a big taxing effect that we get to apply. Alright, let's bash for a little bit more. I think our opponent is playing Rug rather than the 4-colour deck because they have the Minsk and Boo in. Yep, Seek the Beast. What do they find? A Wasteland and a Brainstorm. That's pretty lights out, I think. I can Wasteland our only land, which is not really a situation I want to be in. Yep, do your Brainstorm first, makes sense. Get most information about what you have to work with before you do decisions on your turn. There's a Wasteland, goodbye. Plateau. Our opponent can play a Murktide next turn. Little Channeler as well, right. It's going to fuel a lot of stuff and maybe get this Unholy Heat working. City of Traitors. So, what is important to me now? If we kill their Dragon's Rage Channeler with our Brutal Cathar, is that actually good? Because they can Unholy Heat it and just get their Channeler back, and we haven't really achieved anything. Whereas if we take out their Murktide, we at least strip the counters off of it. So I think that's the play I'm going to go for there. Which means we're not playing our City of Traitors because we don't want to get the Wastelanded. We've got some damage in, that's something. This also leaves us open to a potential initiative creature if that's the thing we're interested in doing. Another Channeler, okay. Ponder seeing 5 cards, potentially. 6 cards, actually, right? Seal of Removal in the graveyard now. So that's enchantment, land, instant, artifact. So these guys are now big boys. I do have to attack every turn. But also means the Unholy Heat is on, which can kill our Peacekeeper here. I imagine the Seal of Removal we see in the graveyard is the one that they put on top. Yep, our opponent should easily smash us from here. Our hand was not the strongest. And they should easily be able to find a land as well. What are we going to... Yeah, our opening hand was pretty bad, but that's kind of the weakness of the deck we're playing sometimes. Because you're trying to skip the early curve and just play like 3 and 4 drops. And sometimes your hand doesn't quite come together to do that. And you fish for one that does, and it gets weaker. Alright, what do we want from our sideboard? Not a lot is really appealing to me right now. Like, Palace Jailer and Soul Partition, I guess, are okay. Taxing Delver's mana is a good thing to do. What from our deck doesn't feel great? Like, we want all our removal. Boromir doesn't do that much. It stops Wastelands and... sorry, not Wasteland. Dazes and Force of Wills sometimes. So I don't think we want this Eowyn. Like, it does kill... yeah, it just straight up kills a Murktide though. So it kind of does the same thing as Palace Jailer, but without introducing the Monarch. Like, maybe Boromir would be better as Palace Jailer. Just have more removal for guys. I don't think Soul Partition is very good. Like, I don't think I want it over any of these things. Alright, maybe this is the game we cast Eowyn. Casting Eowyn on turn 1 isn't very good. We have a lot of mana, but we don't have anything good to do with it. Mulligan this. Okay. This is turn 2 uncounterable thing into turn 3 another uncounterable thing. If we find a land, which seems relatively likely. We'll keep this. What are we going to pitch here? Is it the Forth Eorlingas? That is our only red source, but red mana's basically just fine off the Cavern anyway. It's either that or one of our 3-drops. We don't know which 3-drop is going to necessarily be better, I think. We do sack off the Forth Eorlingas here. I don't know. An expert with the deck might tell you differently. I would like to play out this Plains. We will play out the Chrome Mox before we play out the Cavern, because if we play out the Cavern, they're way more likely to counterspell our Chrome Mox. We just don't want to give them any use for their counterspells. Basic island and a seal of removal, you say? It's kind of annoying. Play this up. I think that means we throw away the Thalia, because Anointed Peacekeeper can name seal of removal. Otherwise, we're not really making a great trade here. Play this, name human. Days, ponder, questing druid, Minskaboo. I think it's the seal of removal here. Next time we get to make an uncounterable Seasoned Dungeoneer. And if they do want to bounce this with seal of removal at some point, then that's like their whole turn gone. And we get to name something different with our Anointed Peacekeeper. But I think this turn will be pretty good for us, this turn cycle. Slam the Dungeoneer and just go ham with it. This will also get a trigger off our Dungeoneer, because it is one of the party types as a cleric. Just good deck building, right? Having the creature types that are relevant. Our opponent spent a very long time on that ponder, then shuffled. You see the other ponder now? We are. Alright. They also shuffled. Put some human, we play as pre-combat so we get a trigger. Comes our big fat powerful human warrior. Let's get stuck in. Then we get a mountain here. We've already played our lands, so there's no point trying to get... Well, we actually don't even have a planes together, do we? Seasoned Dungeoneer. We will leave that on top of our library. That is an above average draw. We can Seasoned Dungeoneer and plow next turn. So this game should be pretty good for us right now. They can activate Seal of Removal, but then what? Another ponder. So we get to forge and trap next turn. So our opponent is dead on board? Most likely. Yeah. We just need one of our two Seasoned Dungeoneer triggers to hit next turn to win the game. Alright, do I want to do anything differently? I don't think so. Let's just get smashing. We could play the Magus of the Moon, but their removal is red based. I'm not really into that. This is a turn 1 Peacekeeper into turn 2 Dungeoneer. That's acceptable to me. But there's a lot of ways this can feel sad for us. They can counterspell our Peacekeeper, wasteland us, and then have a counterspell ready by the time we get up to Dungeoneer. They chose not to shuffle their library, which suggests to me they have an answer for a turn 1 thing. Okay. Let me play out this Ancient Tomb. This is an interesting choice. What we put under here. I think we put the Palace Jailer in and maybe try and use the Forth Eorlingas to just gain some card advantage. I think that's better than using the Palace Jailer. Does make our mana slightly more awkward, but it's the days. It's a Force of Will pitching Merkside region. Alright. Cavern of Souls would be a great draw. A 3-4 is very difficult for them to deal with until they get Delirium. Obviously, Seal of Removal can bounce it, but bouncing the Dungeoneer just means that we continue to go through the Undercity, so it's not the worst. Wasteland, okay. This is kind of panning out like the thing I said. Where they counter our first thing and then wasteland us. So that's not great. Palace Jailer. As I live and breathe. Okay. So next turn we can try for a Forth Eorlingas. But if our opponent makes a creature, that becomes a very bad option for us. Right. Option officially bad for us. Cavern of Souls. I guess we play out the Plateau because the Cavern is going to be essential, because we're kind of hoping to play our Dungeoneer and our Palace Jailer. Quite which order we play them in, I do not know. Our opponent has 3... They're going to have Delirium now, so we can't rely on our Dungeoneer to hold back their... Also means Unholy Heat is an option. If they don't play a creature here, then we probably Palace Jailer. If they do play a creature here, probably Dungeoneer and try and bat it back and forth a bit and race. They didn't play a thing. That's exciting. City of Traitors. That's not really what we're looking for now. Human, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say no to this. So this importantly, when this exiles creatures, they only get them back when they gain the Monarch. Sure, so you can lightning bolt this now. That's not going to make any difference. But they will get to Surveil, which is why they're doing it, and they were going to kill our creature anyway. They may as well get a slight bit of value. Alright, so then we are in the drawing cards mode. I like that. And we get to Seasoned Dungeoneer, hopefully. Merkside region. Okay. That's a pretty hefty clock. Swords to Plowshares, though. Say no to this. Alright. Alright, we are in command right now. Didn't even use uncountable mana there. Whoops. But our opponent was F6. Drawing a bonus card. Forth Eorlingas. That can be a very large selection of horses. Our opponent F6 through our turn last turn. So I'm pretty happy just to tap out for this Forth Eorlingas. Alright, we're questing the beast here. What was this? Brainstorm, Dragon's Rage, Channeler. Alright, our opponent just had enough. And we win the match. Getting a nice 4-1 victory. Only losing to a Storm player who turn 1'd us and then turn 2'd us when our hand was pretty weak. So pretty good. We did also beat a Storm player, so there is that. Let's talk about this deck. So this deck has the same inherent problem that other initiative builds have, in that we are trying to ignore 1 and 2 drops in our deck and just go straight into playing big 3 to 4 drops, which, you know, our deck can relatively reliably do because we've got City of Traitors, Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, Lotus Petal. Sometimes that means we take turn 1 off, but sometimes taking turn 1 off is a disaster when your opponent has a wasteland, because then you have to take turn 2 off before you can get a 3 drop, and it can kind of snowball from that point on sometimes. That being said, obviously what we're doing is very powerful, and the fact that Cavern of Souls is a proper fixing land for us as well. So sometimes with the red-white initiative deck, they end up with creatures trapped in hand because they have a cavern on, you know, Archon or Elemental or whatever. Whereas we just put it on human and it casts all of our spells. And that is really big. I do like having the Brutal Cathars as more removal. They seem pretty tasty. You know, all the things we're playing are fine. I guess if you're expecting more combo, you can always... I still think Peacekeeper is just better than Elite Spellbinder. Especially in the world of Bowmasters, having an X1 is bad. So I don't even think against combo you'd want that. Boromir is interesting. Like, I certainly like how it impacts combo decks. Is that what you should be running main deck? Maybe. Like, it has a bit of answer to some removal, and it has a bit of answer to some combo decks and counter spells and things. So I think it's probably fine as a main deck card. If we weren't playing Cavern of Souls for human and this wasn't a human, or whatever, or if we were playing, you know, if this land was just whatever, I don't think we would play the Boromir. The fact that it kind of goes in with the theme we're doing makes sense. And I think it's good. I like having like 2 of legends here because these aren't essential to our game plan. They're occasionally nice to have, and this, we don't sort of overload on legends this way. You know, we have 1 of this, we have 1 of this, so we're not stepping on our own toes too much. Yeah, I thought this deck was very good. I've been beaten by it before, and it was nice to give it a go myself. I think the fact that it does feel smoother with what you're playing mana-wise is really interesting. Now, the downside of that is we're not playing Fable the Mirror Breaker, which is a very potent card. So we're playing all these human cards instead. Now, sometimes these human cards are going to be great, and they're going to win you the games. Fable, the average quality of Fable is stronger than the average quality of these humans, right? Now, the ceiling of these cards is obviously very high. Probably higher than... Is that true? It's higher than Fable? Well, I guess Fable combined with your stuff is also very high as a ceiling. But if you've got these sitting in play and you're being allowed to untap and attack with them anyway, you're probably winning. So Fable can be win more in those situations. But the reasons why Fable is good is because it gets you into those situations by filtering your draws. You know, you've got a bunch of lands you don't need, or some Chrome Moxes or whatever. You can pitch them. So that reliability you get from Fable is really good, and is something that we're missing in this deck slightly. But we're gaining the additional reliability instead of being able to cast all of our creatures uncounterably and more reliably, which I think is potent. We didn't get to do anything with Eowyn, which is a shame because card looks pretty cool. Is it good enough? Uncertain. But the fact it just exiles a creature and there's no it comes back clause, it's just gone. So this is like a super Flame Tongue Carvu, but it can only kill bigger things. So, you know, that's mainly going to be like construct tokens and Murktide regions, which is fine. I'm pretty happy to kill those. But it's not going to be as flexible as you maybe want. But also, you know, sometimes the haste on it's going to be good too. We're introducing the Monarch and the Initiative into the game, so having a haste creature isn't the worst. But yeah, overall, I like this deck list. I can see why it won the challenge. It looks very strong. We have some nice options like Uncountable Magus of the Moon, like Lorans and Containment Priests. All this seems fine. Did feel like we're a little bit under the gun against some of those Storm decks, and I don't think Soul Partition is a very good card. So I think I would probably swap these out for a kind of Deafening Silence and try and jam up Storm decks that way, or 2 more Mindbreak Traps. Those are probably the options I would consider. Other than that, well done to Tulio Jowdy. This was a very potent deck, lots of nice synergy in it. You know, getting some extra stuff off of your Forth Eorlingas via Rick is pretty cool, as well as some of his other bits and pieces. Sometimes the protection, sometimes you put your opponent in a spot where they have to Wrath. If they're a control deck, Boromir can stop that and just trade your Boromir instead. So I do like what this deck's doing. Is Initiative a deck that I personally enjoy a lot? Not especially. It's not the exact sort of Magic I like to play, but it's definitely very powerful. And I think I enjoyed this build a little bit more than regular Initiative, but I think there's going to be times where we'll miss having things like Fury and Solitude in our deck, because those cards are absolute bangers. So not having them is a real cost, but I'm a big fan of having consistent mana, and this deck does that better than regular Red-White Initiative. So it's a personal choice for sure. Nevertheless, I think this build is, you know, similar in power level, I would say. You're trading some bits for other bits, and at the end of the day, we're just trying to make these big 4-drops and win the game, and that's what these cards pretty much say on them. Big, strong ladies getting it done. All right, I think we're done for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And if you'd like to kick a few pennies my way, by all means, check out my Patreon, linked in the description below. I've got a couple of tiers, one for just saying thank you and sending me a couple of quid a month. I'd appreciate it. Obviously, you don't have to, but it doesn't hurt to ask, does it? And I've got a higher tier which has articles that I post, including my regularly updated primer for Turbo decks. All right, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.